In today's Leeds news, Leeds target Trafford. Matteo Joseph's season is over. Buonanotte Opportunity. Gnonto ready for the run-in. And Rumour Mill's story on Harris Tabakovic. Morning folks, welcome to the Leeds View for Friday the 10th of April with your Leeds United news. Hope your week is going well so far and today has started off as well as can be expected for you. There's a bit of stuff to get stuck into today. You can check out last night's podcast as well, which was the final roundup of predictions from the Leeds United content creators Ollie, Ward, Joe, Blackburn and Smarty from Orta Know Better. It's on the channel, a link at the end of today's video as well, and you can check that out if you want. Also, just a reminder, we got partnered with OK Jerseys. You can get 8% off World Cup shirts for a World Cup summer if you use the code TView in your checkout. Already discounted shirts. Again, my advice on this one, order a size up when you're ordering from OK Jersey. And so that's a very good quality shirts. Go check them out. But there's a bit of stuff to get stuck into today. And we'll start off with James Trafford link. The last time we heard a link with Leeds United and James Trafford, it came from Team Talk, and we're all probably a little bit sceptical about that at that time. But now there has been more news on a potential link with Leeds United and James Trafford, and it's come from a source that we are far more familiar with and is far more credible. That is Joe Donahue, formerly of the Yorkshire Evening Post, now of 442 magazine. And he has a piece today claiming that Leeds United will make an ambitious attempt to sign Manchester City's goalkeeper James Trafford this summer as they look to revamp the goalkeeping department as it's been worded. And it's something we've spoken about an awful lot in the last couple of weeks. There does appear to be a complete revamp of Leeds United's goalkeeping department going on. Alex Kearns, Ilan Meslier and Carl Darlow are all out of contract this summer. There's no news on any updates on extensions of contracts for Darlow or Kearns. At this point, Meslier is looking like he's going to leave. And we had the story earlier this week about Lucas Perry's camp potentially looking at options for him as a move away in the summer. So at this moment in time, Leeds will be exploring options to revamp the entire goalkeeping department. Now, whether that involves bringing a player like Rory Mahadi up into the first team squad, he's out on loan. He's not playing at the moment with Scunthorpe, so he probably needs more time to develop. They are going to have to look at bringing in other goalkeepers. The issue with James Trafford is the very obvious one, and it goes back to last summer when Leeds were after Vanya Milinkovic-Savic as well. There's likely to be a huge amount of competition and clubs that are playing at the top end of a table having a good look at a player like James Trafford. So there will be competition, but it's a split one. Newcastle United are said to be the front runners for James Trafford. They had a go at him last summer, didn't get him, and are expected to go back again this summer. Spurs are also mentioned as having an interest in him, and again, they're in the same bracket as Leeds. Depends on what happens between now and the end of the season with those two sides. Donahue does claim, though, in 442 magazine that Leeds United are one of the clubs that are contemplating a move for James Trafford this summer. As he words it, a cleaning of the house in the goalkeeping department, with Trafford being labelled as top of Leeds United's priority list. Now, the caveat to this is the same caveat with every single player being linked with Leeds United between now and the end of the season: divisional status. And Donahue says that this is fully dependent on Leeds United retaining their top flight status. Now, Leeds have also been linked with interest in Middlesbrough goalkeeper Saul Bryn and Coventry goalkeeper Carl Rushworth. And that could be a case of looking at a first choice and a second choice keeper for the summer. Again, should all these other goalkeepers at the club move on in the summer, Leeds will need more than one option, and it will all depend on how much these guys are going to cost, because Leeds have other priorities further up the pitch that they need to address this summer as well. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Again, we're all pretty skeptical when Team Talk say something, but Joe Donahue's got a pretty decent track record and has plenty of sources within Leeds United, so far more credibility when it comes to that one. But we'll move on for now. This week has been the weirdest week when it comes to stories. We've got a story out about a player one day, and then the following day there's a story going in a completely different direction with a player, and Matteo Joseph is slightly falling into that bracket, although the circumstances with Joseph are slightly different. Yesterday we had the news that Leeds United might be considering possibly sanctioning an exit of Matteo Joseph permanently this coming summer, but now we know that that's not going to happen, at least this summer, and that's going to have to wait for a little bit of time at least. Real Mallorca released a statement yesterday confirming that Matteo Joseph has picked up an anterior cruciate ligament injury to his left knee, an ACL injury, and that is likely to put him on the shelf for a while. The normal recovery time on this, depending on the severity of the injury, is usually anything between 8 and 12 months. It used to be a career-ending injury. It's not as bad anymore, but it is still a tough injury for players to come back from. At this stage, Leeds United and Real Mallorca have not confirmed what the next steps are, and they've also not confirmed the exact severity or how long he is expected to be out for. But a statement released from Real Mallorca yesterday said this: Matteo Joseph has suffered an injury to his left knee during yesterday's training session Following the completion of the relevant medical tests, Leeds United and RCD Mallorca are awaiting a joint decision on next steps to be taken. This is a blow for lots of people in this. It's a blow for Mallorca as they're in the middle of a relegation battle and will now be losing a player who, despite the lack of goals, was playing a huge amount of minutes for them this season. It's a blow for Joseph if he was looking to try and get an exit move this coming summer away from Leeds. And it's a blow for Leeds if they had planned on using that cash from a sale to go into funding first team recruitments for this summer. But if you put all that to one side, and there's a bigger issue here, all that being said, you do hope that he can come back from this. You never want to see a young player pick up an injury like this. It's a serious injury. It's a worrying injury, and no doubt that he'll be pretty upset about this right now. So we do hope that he can come back from this and get back fit and healthy and ready to go again. So from that perspective, get better soon, Matteo Joseph, and I hope that the recovery on this goes well and the severity of the injury isn't as bad as initially thought. But it's been a bad day all round for Leeds United when it has come to injuries. We now know that Daniel James will be out for a while with an adductor strain. We found out yesterday that Joe Rodon and Anton Stach will miss at least this month. Hopefully get back sooner, but Daniel Farke reckons at least the end of the month that they're going to be out after injuries they picked up in the quarter-final against West Ham United. Yacobiol and Noah Okafor both have yet to train this week and are doubts for Monday night. Daniel Farke said that if the game was taking place tomorrow, they wouldn't be involved in the match. The fact that it's got till Monday, we've got a little bit more time to get them ready, and it's vital that those two players are available, at least Yacobiol at the very, very least. So yeah, not a good day all round for injury news for Leeds and Leeds adjacent players. A little chat about Fakundo Buenote, and with all the Leeds injuries and a little bit of an update from Daniel Farke yesterday, it appears that Fakundo Buenote might be able to force his way back into a Leeds matchday squad. Farke, after the international break, had actually talked up Fakundo Buenote and gave the opinion that gave me the opinion that he could be in with a shout of making the matchday squad for the quarter final. That didn't happen. He didn't make the squad. But again, yesterday, Farke has spoken up a little bit and has talked about him, and he's got an opportunity now to get back into the squad. He hasn't appeared in the matchday squad since the FA Cup game against Norwich, but with all of these injuries, and especially the positions of these injuries, he's got a really strong opportunity to do something for Leeds between now and the end of the season. But speaking yesterday on Buenote, Farke said the following. In training sessions, he was close to making the squad for the matches, but many players have been informed this is a chance for him with these injuries to be called up. The solution is perform consistently. Daniel Farke is consistent himself in talking about Fakundo Buenote and the hard work element being what he needs to do to get his way into the Leeds United side. And that's what he's going to have to do, but he does have a chance not just to help Leeds, but also help himself going into the summer as well and sorting out his season. If he can have a strong finish to the season, he'll do an awful lot to fix what has been an incredibly more stop than start season for Fakundo Buenote. But he's got a big opportunity, and fingers crossed, he's ready and raring to go. Let's talk about another player who could have a huge impact now between now and the end of the season. Willie Gnonto and his latest set of comments around his game time and his feelings around the running for Leeds United showed that the young lad is showing a huge amount of maturity, or showing signs of maturing as a footballer. And it's crazy to say these things about Willie Gnonto because he's been around the first team for quite a long time, but he's still just 22 years of age. So he is a young lad who is expected to be a far more mature player because of the amount of game time he's had for Leeds United. But he has very high expectations of himself, and he did talk about that this week with BBC. But he also very realistic about his game time, and he hasn't thrown his toys out of the pram when talking about it this week. So speaking to BBC Radio Leeds, Willie Gnonto had the following to say. I always have high expectations for myself. Obviously, I wanted to play more and to help the team more, but it hasn't really been possible. We have 7 games left, and I want to try and help the team as much as I can and hopefully be on the pitch as much as I can too. Everybody can still play a part in the final running because everyone is in a good position and most of the team is fit. We feel everyone is ready and we're pretty confident that we can stay up. If Noah Okafor's injury is slightly worse than has been let on, or if he does miss this game against Manchester United this weekend, and for me, Willie Gnonto is the obvious like-for-like replacement. If Daniel Farke decides to be a little bit more adventurous, out to Naka also falls into that bracket as well, and both of them could now get the minutes that we've all been screaming for them to get, and the fact that they've had some minutes in the FA Cup very recently means they're coming in a little bit warmer and not as cold as they would have been prior to the international break, so there's some good bits there as well. But they're going to have an important part to play, and this will depend on what Daniel Farke wants to do. I mean, I can absolutely see Ilya Gruev playing against Manchester United because he'll want to keep it tight. But against the likes of Wolves, Bournemouth, Burnley, for me, if Noah Okafor is not available, you have to play Willie Gnonto in that position. It's a like-for-like replacement. And again, out Tanaka in midfield has to play for me, along with probably Gruev and Ethan Ampadu at that stage. But then John Longstaff is also in that mix as well. But yeah, I think he's got a big part to play, Willie Gnonto, and I really do hope that we can see the best of him between now and the end of the season. I think he's been really good coming off the bench, and that hasn't been rewarded by game time in terms of starts. So hopefully he starts to get some of that. Let's move into some rumour mill territory, and this one's coming out of Germany. Right, it's another day, and it's another striker being linked. This one is coming from Bild in Germany. And according to Bild, they claim that Leeds United have got strong interest in Borussia Mönchengladbach striker Haris Tabakovic this summer. Yesterday, we talked about the fact that Leeds might be looking at bringing in more than one profile of striker this summer should Joe Piroe go away. We've talked about Yanis Bagrewi yesterday, who's a smaller player, 5'8", 5'9", it's not that small, as well as Troy Parrott, who's been linked again today, more interest around him. And he's not in that tall target man bracket. And we saw in the Ireland games recently, if he does the play of the lone striker, it's probably not ideal in that situation. So Leeds might be looking at bringing in two sets of strikers because they have been looking at a target man as well. And Tabakovic definitely fits the DCL Lucas Mecha target man model. He's 6'5" in height. This season, he's got 13 goals and 5 assists for Gladbach. And he scored most recently for Bosnia against Italy as they won that game in the World Cup qualifying final to make the World Cup. The fee around him as well is being quoted as relatively cheap. It's about €5 million. So you're looking at, 3.25 million up to £4-ish million, which is not an awful lot. So again, could be a cheaper option. The big stumbling block with this one for me, and where I'm kind of torn on whether I believe this or not, I'm leaning more towards not believing it than I am believing it. He's 31 years of age right now, which is way above the normal age bracket that the 49ers enterprises look to recruit in, which is that high end of 28 being the peak years of a player. So that doesn't really line up for me unless they see him as a short-term option for a year or two, adding competition for DCL and Mecha, and then looking at spending that money elsewhere on another striker. I don't know. But for me, he's not a player that's even worked with Daniel Farke at Gladbach. He came in after Farke's time there. So I don't know. I think he's too old for Leeds, if I'm being honest about it. I mean, he probably has got 4 or 5 years left in him easily. But for me, based on the current recruitment model that Leeds go for, I think he's probably on the further end of it. I could be wrong. Probably will be. But yeah, strange ones for me. But again, you can let me know your thoughts on that one down below. We are keeping track of it. When the season gets near, once Leeds safety or future is decided in the Premier League, we're going to do a shortlist video on all the players that have been linked, who has linked them, and what we think the reality of those players being genuine links to Leeds United actually are come the end of the season. So we'll keep track of all of them. Outside of that, folks, look, that'll be it for me today. Check out okjersey.com, 8% off in your checkout with the code TView for World Cup shirts for a World Cup summer. I will be back over the weekend at some point. Keep an eye out for that. We have a preview show over on bigup.com tonight. Myself, Matty Foster, and Joe Blackburn. You can check that out if you want to. That's replacing our press conference reactions that we normally do after Daniel Farke's once. So more of a preview video. That'll be out tonight, 7 o'clock over on Big Up. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you later. See ya.